1944. Across the world, the stars and stripes fly as a beacon of hope against the creeping darkness of tyranny. The American soldier is seen as an unbreakable shield of freedom, a warrior of honor who would rather die than betray his brothers. But in the midst of the greatest struggle for liberty the world has ever seen, a chilling shadow emerged from within our own ranks. In the cockpit of a P-38 Lightning, a machine of pure American engineering excellence, one man decided to turn his back on his country, his family, and the sacred oath he swore to the Constitution. This isn't just a story of a stolen plane, it is the ultimate declassification of a deep-seated betrayal that tested the very resolve of the U.S. military intelligence.
To understand the gravity of the Monti case, you have to understand the American military psyche of the 1940s. Desertion was rare, but defection to the enemy, specifically to the SS, was considered a physical impossibility. Our intelligence officers didn't just see this as a security breach, they saw it as a psychological anomaly. Why would an American raised in the land of the free choose the shackles of National Socialism? This case forced the Office of Strategic Services, OSS, to develop new layers of internal counterintelligence that still protect our nation today. It was a dark moment that ultimately made the American shield stronger and more vigilant.
October 13th, 1944. Lieutenant Martin James Monti took off from an airfield in Italy. His mission was simple, his aircraft superior, but instead of engaging the enemy, he flew directly into their arms. He landed in Nazi-occupied territory and handed over one of America's most advanced reconnaissance planes to the Axis powers. The news hit the high command like a thunderbolt. How could a son of America become a tool for the SS?
The strategic danger was immense. The P-38 Lightning was a masterpiece of Lockheed's design. By handing it over, Monti wasn't just committing treason, he was handing over American technological secrets to the Luftwaffe. But the American spirit is defined by how we handle betrayal. We didn't panic, we adapted. This incident led to the most intense manhunt in the history of the European theater of operations. The message from Washington was clear: no traitor, no matter where they hide, is beyond the reach of American justice.
This story reminds us that the price of freedom is eternal vigilance. The strength of the United States lies in the loyalty of its heroes, and when that loyalty is broken, the consequences are historic. Are you fascinated by the hidden shadows of military history? Subscribe now and hit the bell to ensure you never miss a declassified file. We want to hear from you. What is the most shocking World War II fact or secret tactic you've ever discovered? Share your knowledge in the comments below. I'll be reading and responding to your insights. After landing his aircraft in enemy territory, Martin James Monti didn't just stop at treason. He went further into the belly of the beast. Under the alias Martin Veithaupt, he joined the SS Standarte Kurt Eggers, the elite propaganda unit of the Waffen-SS. The Nazis, desperate to break the iron will of the American people, saw Monti as a golden opportunity. They wanted to use an American voice to poison the minds of American soldiers, but they underestimated the core strength of our nation's character.
The Nazi propaganda machine, led by Goebbels, thought they could use Monti to create a radio bridge to demoralize our troops. He recorded broadcasts aimed at U.S. soldiers, trying to convince them that their cause was lost. But here is where American brilliance shines. Our intelligence services, the forerunners of the CIA, were already tracking his every word. They analyzed his speech patterns, his psychological state, and used his betrayal as a case study to train our men on how to resist psychological warfare. The Nazis tried to use an American voice to destroy us, but we used that same voice to learn how to defeat their propaganda forever.
While Monti was speaking into German microphones, the U.S. 8th Air Force was raining fire upon the very factories that sustained his new masters. His betrayal was being met with the overwhelming industrial and moral might of a united America. Every word he spoke for the SS was drowned out by the roar of thousands of American engines and the indomitable spirit of the Allied advance.
What's truly fascinating is the audacity of Monti's transition. He wore the SS uniform, he carried their documents, yet he was surrounded by a world that was crumbling under the pressure of American strategic bombing. He was a man standing on a sinking ship, trying to convince the ocean to stop rising. His story shows that while one individual may falter, the collective integrity of the American military is an immovable mountain. Even in his defection, he was a witness to the inevitable triumph of American democracy over totalitarianism.
But as the war drew to a close and the Reich began to burn, the traitor realized that there was nowhere left to run. The hunter was now the hunted, and the long arm of American law was closing in. By early 1945, the Thousand-Year Reich was a landscape of ruins and desperation. Yet, inside the elite circles of the Waffen-SS, Martin James Monti was deepening his betrayal. He wasn't just a voice on the radio anymore. He had fully integrated into the most feared military organization in history. Wearing the Totenkopf, the death's head, on his collar, Monti became an SS Untersturmführer, while his fellow Americans were freezing in the foxholes of the Ardennes, fighting for the very survival of civilization. Monti was assisting the enemy in documenting their final, brutal stands.
This is the most disturbing chapter of the Monti file. Joining the Waffen-SS was a bridge beyond return. It required a level of commitment to Nazi ideology that went far beyond mere desertion. Our intelligence records show that Monti was moving through Berlin during its final days, a city being pulverized by American B-17s. Think about the psychological ironies. An American citizen, in an SS uniform, watching American bombs destroy the heart of the regime he chose to serve. It highlights the absolute superiority of American strategic bombing. Even our traitors had to duck for cover from the might of the U.S. Army Air Forces.
Despite his rank, the Nazis never truly trusted him. To them, he was a useful tool, but a traitor is always a traitor, even to those he defects to. Monti found himself in a twilight world, caught between a homeland that would hang him and a regime that viewed him with suspicion. But as the Soviet Red Army closed in from the east and the American war machine hammered from the west, Monti's survival instinct, not his loyalty, took over.
Monti's story at this stage is a masterclass in the desperation of a man without a country. He saw the inevitable. American logistical power and military genius had broken the back of the Wehrmacht. He knew that the victory or death slogans of the SS were a lie. His final mission wasn't for the Führer. It was a desperate tactical retreat to find a way back into American lines without being recognized as a defector. He was playing a deadly game of hide-and-seek with history itself.
May 1945. Germany has fallen. The world celebrates the triumph of democracy over darkness. Amidst the chaos of millions of displaced persons and surrendering soldiers, a lone man in a tattered uniform approaches an American outpost in Italy. He identifies himself as Lieutenant Martin Monti, but he doesn't tell them about the SS uniform he burned in a ditch. He tells them a story of heroism, a story of being captured, escaping from a Nazi camp, and fighting his way back to his own lines.
This was Monti's great deception. He bet on the fog of war. He believed that in the vast bureaucracy of the post-war cleanup, his records would be lost. He actually managed to convince his initial interrogators that he was a victim of circumstance. It's a chilling reminder that the enemy isn't always across the battlefield. Sometimes they try to sit at your own table, but he underestimated the meticulous nature of American military record-keeping. Our intelligence officers are trained to spot the smallest inconsistency, and Monti's story had holes large enough to fly a B-29 through.
For a short time, the deception worked. Monti was even allowed to rejoin the army, but the shadow of his P-38 Lightning, the plane he abandoned in 1944, never left him. The U.S. Counterintelligence Corps, CIC, was already cross-referencing captured Nazi documents. They found his alias. They found his propaganda recordings. The American military declassified his lies one by one, preparing a trap that would ensure justice was served.
What makes the American pursuit of justice so impressive is our patience. We didn't just arrest him on suspicion. We built an airtight case using the very Nazi documents the enemy thought they had destroyed. It shows the brilliance of American forensic intelligence. We used the enemy's own obsession with record-keeping to hang their newest recruit. Monti thought he was a genius of deception, but he was facing the collective intellect of a nation that had just won a global war. His escape was merely a stay of execution.
The traitor thought he had returned home as a hero. In reality, he had walked directly into the waiting arms of an American military that never forgets a betrayal. The final reckoning was about to begin in a courtroom that would remind the world. America protects its own, but it also punishes those who spit on the flag. 1946. The war was over for most, but for the Federal Bureau of Investigation, and the U.S. Army's counterintelligence corps, a new battle was beginning. The hunt for the domestic enemies who had aided the Axis. Martin James Monti, after successfully deceiving his way back into the U.S. Army, thought he was safe. He was even promoted to sergeant. But the American military is an institution built on precision and memory. While Monti was enjoying his life back in the States, thousands of miles away in Germany, investigators were unearthing microfilm and SS payrolls that listed a familiar name, Martin Weithaupt.
This is where American forensic intelligence showed its true brilliance. The transition from the OSS to the CIA and the expansion of the FBI's domestic reach weren't just bureaucratic moves, they were tactical evolutions. Investigators didn't just find documents, they found witnesses. They tracked down former SS officers in Allied custody who remembered the American volunteer. Monti's biggest mistake was believing that the chaos of a destroyed Europe would bury his tracks. In reality, American logistics had cataloged the ruins of the Third Reich so thoroughly that even a single traitor's signature couldn't remain hidden. We don't just win on the battlefield, we win in the archives.
In 1948, the hammer finally fell. The FBI moved in. The charges were staggering. Treason. This wasn't a simple military desertion case anymore. It was a federal trial for the highest crime a citizen can commit against his nation. As the headlines broke, the American public was horrified. The son of a middle-class family, an officer who had been given the privilege of flight, was now revealed as an SS collaborator. The declassification of his crimes was a national wake-up call.
The trial of Martin Monti was a pivotal moment for American law. It sent a clear message during the early years of the Cold War. Loyalty is the bedrock of our democracy. The prosecution didn't just present a traitor, they presented a man who had insulted every American life lost on the beaches of Normandy. The strategic use of his own propaganda broadcasts in court was a masterstroke. Listening to his own voice siding with the enemy was the final nail in his coffin. American justice is patient, but when it arrives, it is overwhelming.
The courtroom was silent as the verdict was read. Martin James Monti, realizing the game was up, changed his plea to guilty. He was sentenced to 25 years in Leavenworth Federal Penitentiary. Behind the thick stone walls of the most notorious military prison, the man who once wore the SS skull was now just another number in an American cell. The uniform he had swapped for a Nazi tunic was now replaced by the drab clothes of a convict.
Leavenworth isn't just a prison, it's a symbol of American discipline. For Monti, it was a place of total isolation from the world he tried to destroy. While he sat in his cell, the United States was rising as the world's sole superpower, led by the very brothers in arms he had betrayed. His story serves as a dark contrast to the greatest generation. While millions of Americans built the post-war world with sweat and integrity, Monti sat in silence, a living testament to the fact that treason offers no rewards, only a slow, forgotten rot in the archives of history.
But even in prison, Monti's story remained a point of intense study for American psychological experts. They wanted to know, what makes an American snap? How can our superior education and freedom produce a mind that admires tyranny? The interviews conducted with him during his decades of incarceration helped the U.S. military refine its code of conduct for prisoners of war, ensuring that no future American soldier would ever feel that defecting was an option.
Even a traitor can unintentionally serve his country. By studying Monti's failures, American military psychologists learned how to strengthen the moral armor of our troops. We turned his betrayal into a lesson on resilience and loyalty. It proves the American spirit's ability to take a wound and heal stronger. Monti remained in prison until 1960, a man forgotten by the world, while the nation he betrayed reached for the moon. His life ended in obscurity, but the lesson he provided remains declassified for every patriot to see. The American oath is forever.
The traitor's journey from the cockpit of a P-38 to an SS uniform and finally to a prison cell was complete. But the final chapter of this file isn't just about one man's punishment. It's about the eternal strength of the nation that brought him to justice. The story of Martin James Monti did not remain just a case of treason in the dusty shelves of history. When he quietly walked out of prison on parole in 1960, the world outside had changed completely. The America he had betrayed had entered the space age, becoming the unshakable leader of the free world. Monti lived the rest of his life as a shadow, hiding his identity and living in shame. When he died in Missouri in the year 2000, he left behind no heroic saga, no honorable name. He was recorded only as the ultimate lesson in American history on what not to do.
The Monti case taught us this: a nation's greatest weapon is not its missiles or its aircraft, but the unwavering loyalty of its soldiers. When this file was declassified, American military intelligence didn't view this incident as a sign of weakness. Instead, they used it as an opportunity to strengthen the immune system of our forces. Today, the foundations of the SEER, survival, evasion, resistance, and escape, training applied in the modern U.S. military, are built on lessons learned from the traps that weak characters like Monti fell into. We Americans do not run from our mistakes. We analyze them, tear them apart, and transform them into armor that will never let us be hit again. Monti wearing an SS uniform was a disgrace, but American justice finding him and stripping that uniform off his back is a triumph.
Although this file is now closed, the lessons extracted continue to live in the shadow of the flag that waves over American bases every morning. Treason, no matter how great, is destined to melt against the integrity of the American spirit. Monti was deceived by the false grandeur of Nazi Germany, but he realized too late the rot beneath that grandeur and the unstoppable logistical and moral power of American democracy. His story is a warning for those who know the value of freedom and a source of pride for the millions of heroes who remained loyal to their country.
In conclusion, the Traitor Within file shows us that American genius doesn't just produce technology, it builds character. Monti failed the character test, but the American nation passed it with flying colors. Justice was served, the truth was revealed, and the stars and stripes continued to wave higher than ever. Remember, a chain is only as strong as its weakest link. We found that weak link, broke it, and replaced it with a will made of steel. This is not just a spy story. It is the story of a nation cleaning the darkness from within itself.
At the War Room Archives, we will continue to illuminate these darkest pages of history, because we know that recognizing the traitors of the past is the first step in raising the heroes of the future.
We've reached the end of another classified file. What does Martin Monti's story remind you of? What motivation could a man have to turn his back on his country? Or is it simply a flaw in character? Your thoughts are invaluable to us. Let's discuss in the comments. Until we meet in the next declassified file, stay vigilant, stay strategic, and always stand on the side of freedom. I am Professor Vance. This is The War Room. Farewell for now.